Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. My name is Stacy and this is Amie, and this is a show about a little bit behind the curtains of what we get up to for our businesses and what we get up to as parents and things like that. So today's podcast is more about the changes that's happening in Ames's business and what you've been up to and what's going on with Miiyami and now how I'm involved with that. So just a quick introduction. So Ames, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I am a mum of three and I run a business called Miiyami. Up until now, it's kind of been more of like a home run business, and I guess that's like the main thing that's changed. We're starting to think more big brand now. I've been making clothes for probably about 7 years, but had Miiyami for maybe about 18 months. And up until now, everything has just been made to order. I do a little bit of sewing myself, mostly like doing the sampling and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's all changing now.
Yeah, and my name's Stacy, as I said before. And so what I do is I actually work for I work full time. I'm a sales manager for a sporting brand here in New Zealand. But on my side hustle is I love creating content, taking photos, making videos, doing art, graphics, things like that in Photoshop. Both of us are self-taught, and what we want to try and do is align our skills together and just sort of how we can drive Miiyami a lot more, So we talked about doing some changes. So what we want to do is, as Ames mentioned before, Ames, is that you are doing making everything yourself pretty much with the help of manufacturers and things like that, but you were doing it made to order. So you do pre-orders and then take those orders, and then what was the turnaround time? It was like
and I think that's where I ended up coming to the decision of being like, nah, I've fucking had it with this. The turnaround time was getting up to like 4 weeks. And
as a consumer, you don't want to be waiting. Like when you see something, you want it now. Like that's the culture now. Everybody wants stuff now. So it must have been frustrating as someone buying something from you, even though they loved your brand and who you were. Must have been getting frustrating.
It was always like stated on my website and in the product descriptions that everything is made to order and there's at least a 3-week turnaround time. But I sold a bunch of these coats, which were called the poodle coats, and each one of those coats had like 23 pieces to it. So they were they were hard as to cut. So I was cutting them, Mum was cutting them, and they were just taking ages to get out. And I was having people saying, "Oh, when will my coat be ready?" You know, even though they do know that it's made to order, but I just feel so stink making people wait that long. And it wasn't until you actually said to me, and it just sounds so simple now to ask the question, but when you asked me the question of, so would you wait 4 weeks for a garment? And I straight away was like, nah, fuck no. And you're like, there's your answer then, you know?
Yeah, and I think like you say, people want stuff now, and then when it takes so long, then they sort of get lost on they just like, oh, I'm over it now. I actually probably want my money back. So. But what we're also doing, and it's a good way to start business though, is doing pre-orders, because especially if you don't have funding, right? If you don't have the cash to be able to pre-purchase all the fabrics, get things made, to be able to then go off and get it done, it's really hard. So you got to try and do pre-orders. People pay for it, and then use that funds to then make the garments and all the manufacturing and everything else. So it does make sense when you're first starting out as a brand. But I think if you want to move forward, you know, like your dream is to be in a store or have your own store, and I think you got to start thinking like that,
Yeah, and I was just finding that I was way too in my business. You know, like as I said, I was doing a lot of the cutting, and where I like to be is in the design side of things, and I was just so far from there. You know, it had been like 8 weeks between designing something and actually getting product out, and I was just too much involved in the business and doing nothing to make it grow.
And the challenge as well, because then you've also got kids at home, right? So the challenge is you're working mum from home, but then you've got the challenge of the kids. So really you've got a small window of being able to work, you know, trying to do everything at once. So you're doing the marketing, you were doing the website, you're doing the blogs, the designing, the cutting, everything like that. So it's really challenging. So like we had that chat, we had a really good chat about where we could take your business and what needs to change. And I think time's your biggest asset, and you don't have a lot of it. And because also, you know, you're mainly from working on the kitchen table, you know, your challenges around that as well. So I think if you're more about delegating jobs, getting those jobs out there, to other people and getting them done frees up more time.
Yeah.
Especially design your mind space to design.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're finding at the moment?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's where I sort of asked you, do you think you would be able to kind of come on board and help out a bit? So, you'll now be...
so what we decided to do was that Ames and I decided that Ames needed a bit of direction and content. Because at the moment, when like you just said, that you're all about, being so ingrained in the business, not on the business.
Yeah.
And there's two different things about it. It's like if you were stuck in a traffic jam. Isaac from YKTR brought up a good point the other day. It's like if you're in a traffic jam, you're sitting in the car in the traffic jam and you're trying to fight your way through all the different traffic and the traffic lights and the traffic jams. Whereas if you're a helicopter looking above, looking down on the traffic, it's so much easier to navigate. You can see the problems ahead. You can see what you need, where you need to go. Yep. And so at the moment you're like in that traffic jam, you're stuck in there. Yeah. And so whereas I'm coming on board, and so with the problem with that is you weren't able to create content. Your mind wasn't like, oh fuck, I need to post today. What should I post? Oh my God, I've got no idea what I should be posting. Where in fact, I'm just like, your mind's not in the creative side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where if you just had somebody come in and say, okay, I'll look after all the content for you, it takes you away from that, and that makes you focus on designs, processes, timeframes, things like that. So how do you think that's going to how do you think having a content creator or a creative director come on board with you and your business, how do you think it's going to change things for you?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be massive. Like, because as you say, like when my mind is somewhere else, like if I'm thinking about, what to design next, or I'm thinking, oh, should I use that fabric? Will this work with that? Or what are the trends at the moment? I'm not thinking about, oh shit, I've got to do a reel, or I've got to upload on TikTok or whatever. And plus also, I can kind of talk myself out of it real easy as well, because I want things to look professional. So if I'm in the trenches on our friggin' lounge room floor cutting fur, poodle coats or whatever, I'm not really going to film it because I'm like, I don't know if people really want to see the mess of this, They might, but I would just rather have somebody say, this is what you've got to do. I need you to upload a TikTok about how you found those two fabrics, and then I can do it.
Yeah, one example was yesterday, like we had our pre-line yesterday. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But an example of that was while you were sort of talking through the process, I was taking photos of you going through that process, which then created like a little video, which then also got some stills from it. Yeah. Whereas you wouldn't have had time to be like, shit, I've got to stop that, take some photos.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have done it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think just as a brand, I think it's quite important to have someone on board to help with your creativity and, with your content creativity. A lot of brands think themselves as a product, right? But I see it, and I think a lot of other people should start looking at it as you're actually a marketing company with product, meaning you've got to tell your story about who you are. You've got to tell your story about who Miiyami is, who you are personally. Create that sort of attachment for people to come along and be part of your brand. Yeah, it's like why do you attract yourself to your favorite brands? If you had to think about it, I like it because of this reason, or I like what they do there, I can connect with them. Yeah. So they've built that brand, and then you have product on the back of that.
Yeah, because people buy from people. So.
Exactly right, yeah. So having somebody be able to create the content for you, for example, myself coming on board now, and just utilising those skills to be able to, that I think that'll help build your business. Yeah. And now we've shifted going from sort of being like, in brackets, a stay-at-home mum sewer, to now thinking, okay, we actually want to be in a shop. Your mindset's sort of now growing. Yes. You want to talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So I remember when we were kind of having that discussion, which was like a few weeks ago now, about how you were like, you're thinking too small, you're thinking home brand. And I'm like, yeah, true. And then you started asking me questions like, okay, so what are the brands that you aspire to? And, I would say, like Super Red or Shona Joy, whatever. And you're like, so do those brands take made to order? Do those brands make a dress a little bit shorter for a girl that might be, and I'm like, nah, they don't. You're like, well, there you go. There's plenty of other girls that do, but there's plenty of other brands that do made to order stuff like that.
Custom product,
Custom product, yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of people buy it, if they do want to get it made, custom to them, they've taken up or brought in, they would buy it from the shop and then they would take it to...
go get it altered. If they really love it, you just would, So yeah,
because that was taking a lot of your time up, right? Yeah. If you're doing those custom orders, if you were having to do like shorten it for somebody or lengthen it or take it in a specific design. It was taking a lot of your time.
It was. And then I started charging extra for it and I wasn't getting many orders. So then I was like, oh shit, maybe people are thinking it's too expensive. So then I would take off the charge and then people would order and then I'm like, fuck, it's using so much more of my time to do it, you know? So it's really been that shift in mindset that has been like just the light bulb moment, you know, of and I have to sometimes keep asking myself, would the big brand do this, you know, to keep myself in that big brand mindset, because I did think about doing rentals, which it might still be a thing, or maybe selling patterns, and you're like, do those big brands that you aspire to sell patterns? I'm like, no, you know, see.
So, and so when you have that big brand thought, then how does that change your mind in terms of design process? What does that look like then?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never done pre-line designing, and I've designed a collection before, but I've never done it sort of the way that you've taught me how to do it, like pre-lining yesterday. So
you just want to talk about what that process was?
Yeah, so I came up with a bunch of designs probably over the last sort of 2 weeks, and brought a whole heap of different fabrics together that I'd been out hunting and had found online and been to my suppliers and just found a whole heap of fabrics that I really liked and thought that will work with that will work with that. What are the trends? What am I loving at the moment? Well, not so much at the moment. I had to get out of that mindset as well because I was going, oh, a neon sweatshirt would be cool, but our launch date is September, so I had to get into spring mindset too, which is something that I haven't done before either. So
because all your designs are for now.
Yeah, because I'm able to, because everything was made to order, I could launch right now. I could see a fabric that I liked yesterday and a pattern, or have my pattern maker make me a pattern, and then I could launch it tomorrow and just quickly shoot it or whatever. But I've had to be so much more organised and forward thinking. So I designed like maybe about 8 to 10 pieces, I think it was, and then brought them to you with some fabric swatches. And I was quite confused when I came to you yesterday. I was like, I need your help in like figuring out what to do. And my supplier only had a certain amount of fabrics that I wanted to use. So I'm like, what do I do? I was starting to get a bit anxious about it. So we just spoke about it and
so it's a really good point when what you talk about when you're doing a launch. If you are doing a product, what an idea could be is you can design as many pieces as you want with the fabrics and everything else like that, but then you got to sort of put it together and how does it tell a story? You know, like if you've got, you might have come up with some great ideas about designs of maybe 4 tops, a couple of dresses, and maybe a bunch of pants. But then you have to sort of narrow it down. Okay, how will that fit into a story for September delivery?
Yeah.
And not everything is going to make it, but then you might put those to the side and think, actually, we could use them at a later date, or actually that would be really cool because we've got December coming up. That would look really nice then. Or maybe we could hold that off till next winter, things like that. So pre-lining really helps in terms of the product that you want to make and the range you want to put together.
Yeah. Then
it really gives you some direction. Then you start storytelling. So from a creator's point of view, it gives me a direction. I can start storytelling with that range.
Yeah.
So we come up with really cool pieces. So we've got a launch date of September. Was it the first September, which is going to be the new collection. And so we've narrowed that down. So as time will come along, we'll start introducing that a little bit more.
Yeah.
And we talk to things about size curves, what sizes we want to go, the quantities of each piece.
Yeah.
And remembering tops are going to be different to bottoms.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone, like you might sell 18, 12, 14, but you might not sell the same quantities across all sizes, right? So you do what you call a bell curve. So you might want to do 1 8, 2 10s, 3 12s, 2 14s, or whatever the mix may be. And it could be, again, different for pants, right? So now the responsibility is us to create the product, create those quantities, and then it gives us, once we launch, then we really got to drive sales, don't we? So that's going to be a different mentality for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I'm not used to, I'm kind of just used to selling on the spot almost, but it's going to be fun because I get so excited about the thought of selling something and being able to dispatch it the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. So the challenge for you now was that, okay, now you've designed that range. Now you've also got to look forward to the next range.
Yeah.
So you've got to start thinking about those designs.
Yeah.
So it is challenging as a brand. You're in 3 seasons. You're in the current season. So you've got say for example, if we're a few seasons deep, so you'll be in the current season, but also you've still got stock from your previous season you need to try and clear through. Then you're in your current season, then you're sort of designing your next range.
The next one, yeah.
So you're always in 3 seasons, you know, so it's kind of challenging in that way. So, so I think, how do you feel? How are you going to be finding around that? What's going to be your biggest challenge, do you reckon? Going from the mentality of, okay, I just want to design, take pre-orders, make, and then dispatch.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be your biggest challenge now with the new process? Or what are you most excited about?
Yeah, I'm probably most excited about designing all the time. But I need to make sure that I've got the time for that too, which I think I will. I almost feel like from our pre-lining yesterday, I've started the next collection, because those ones, those ones that we've sort of put to the side, they're going to be my next collection, and I know what one of the fabrics that I'm going to use as well.
Yeah, sweet.
So that's already kind of starting. But my biggest challenge is probably going to be, working in the future, you know, rather than the now.
Yeah, because like you mean before, you were saying, oh, cool, I found a fabric, I'll make that, design that, chuck that up online and then sell that straight away. Whereas you've got to think, okay, I'm designing my September range, and my next range might be, I don't know, December. Then the next range might be, depending how often we want to do drops as well.
Yeah. See, we haven't even figured that out yet.
No, we really wanted just to get into this one here. The other challenge is do people get buyer fatigue? Meaning if we drop too much product, will people go, oh, it's just not another piece. You know what I mean? So trying to get that mix as right as well is going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But I also think on the back of that, as I spoke about before, we're a marketing company that has product on the side, that sells product as well. So I think if we keep creating content, like keep building that community.
Yeah.
What we tend to find is that people continue to support you. You know what I mean? Like, because they love, what everything's about Miiyami and things like that. So,
and we don't have to have massive ranges, like that.
No.
It's not like we're going to hold a massive load of stock and be thinking, shit, we need to shift this. I mean, we still do have to shift it. But like, for example, the collection that we finalised yesterday, we've got 30 pieces, eh?
Yeah. Which
it's not very much, actually.
Well, compared to what other big brands do. But I mean, like I say, because it's our first proper range, it's more of a testing phase.
Yeah.
Okay, what's going to work? How's this going to work? Timelines for us. What does that look like? Because we've done a pre-line. Now we've locked in our range. We want to talk about RRPs, what costings are going to be involved, how much that's, because we're going to have that discussion.
Yeah.
And then we need to have a calendar of, okay, we need the samples done by this date. We need to get those samples and have the patterns made.
Yeah.
And then once that's all sorted, then we need once we've got those samples, we need to go and take photos for our marketing, upload that into our website. So there's all these timeframes leading up to 1st of September.
Yeah.
Then there's pre-September, so pre-launch. Post-launch, sorry. So then you've got your customer services managing that side of things, the website, managing your queries.
Yeah.
But the whole time also making sure that we're still communicating with the consumer.
Yeah.
Building that community.
And designing the next range too.
And of course designing the next range. So, but I think going back to what's ways that we can create content is like about you going designing. So my idea is coming and following you the day in the life of Ames,
like
a designer.
fabric hunting or something,
Well, I think that, but also just about you being a mum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people also want to not just see you as a brand. We also want to see you as a person.
So like a day in the life.
Yeah. Like you get up, you do yoga, we go for a run, we manage the kids to get them off to school.
Yeah.
And what does that look like once they're dropped off? What happens after then? The rushes of, trying to get everything done within that small time frame. And then you got to get the kids and then that after school life and then, like family, so there's so much that goes in, and a lot of ladies or dads can relate to the.
Yeah, I like watching that stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just sort of you could personalize with it, you know. So once that's building that community. I think having that kind of content really resonates with a lot of people, and I think
so.
Rather than the whole idea, because what you used to be about, I remember looking at your content, it was like we're on sale, clearance, last one. It was all about what you wanted.
Yeah, and just gross, like just pushing sales, push all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas, you've been telling me for years to provide value.
Yeah.
But I just have never really I've never really done it because I've kind of just never really found the time. It sounds like such a shit excuse, but yeah, I would have rather just been like, oh, I'm going to make a new dress and put that up for sale, rather than I'm going to show people how to sew on a button.
Yeah,
You know?
and it'll be interesting to hear what other people think about what kind of content they would like to see.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I said, people made comments down below or just hit us up on Instagram at Miiyami.
Yeah.
Just letting us know what you would actually like to see. You know, it's like we can assume what people want to see, but it's also nice to know what people want to see.
Yeah.
You know, is it tutorials? Is it a day in the life of? Is it the process of building a brand? Is it more talking about, you know, these podcasts about what involves building a brand? And is it all of the above? You know, like
Yeah. I think it is all of the above,
I think
because I did like a little bit of a poll on that on my Instagram a few weeks back, and most of the answers were sort of styling tips, sewing tips, new product. They wanted to see new product more often. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what would be quite cool as well, and on expanding that, is like how to, like, styling tips is a massive one, right? A lot of ladies, you know, like I've got an event coming up to, I've got a girls' dinner to go to, I've got a wedding to go to, I've got some sort of occasion to go to.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I going to wear?
Yeah.
And if you just say, hey, look, I've got this, like, and utilizing your garments as a sort of a, you know, like to create an outfit.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got like a little black dress or a little skirt, or, you know, like some piece of garment in their wardrobe that they can reuse, but also utilizing Miiyami piece as well.
Yeah.
And what kind of jewelry you'd use, you know, the nails that go with it.
Yeah.
Because we want to really branch out a lot more. As we've talked about a couple of things, you know, like so many different things, like jewelry would be quite cool, sunglasses would be cool.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'd like to be able to do, like, because we're both sports fanatics, or like fitness fanatics, I guess. You know, yoga mats, utilizing some of my photos, you know, in association with Miiyami.
Yeah.
There's so many different avenues we can go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Remember, I got a bit too excited. It was like, I've been looking and figuring out like what jewelry, and you're like, hang on, we'll get there. Don't do it yet. I'm like, but can we do it before Christmas? I want to do it before
Yeah.
summer.
So maybe that's the next step. So we do this first drop, and then okay, next step we've got coming up, you know, maybe do we drop in a pair of sunglasses with it?
Yeah.
You know, so how would that look? Or a hat, or, you know, I can't wait to do things like beach umbrella. You know, there's really, there's so many different opportunities out there, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many different things.
So many, yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty much what we wanted to explain to you today, about what our new strategy is in terms of Miiyami. Actually, do you want to explain what Miiyami is? What's the name of Miiyami? Do you remember what the...
Yeah, so the way that I came about Miiyami was, I feel a bit wanky talking about it, but my name, Amie, A-M-I-E, it means friend in French. And that's kind of how I've always related to my customers. I message them back and forth like a friend. They know that they can message me and ask any kind of query about anything. And that's how I want it to continue to be. And I think people like that too. So I was like, maybe my name, this was when I was trying to search for a name of my business. Maybe my name is something to do with that, but I didn't want to call it Amie. So I just went through a whole heap of different stuff. I was like, what did I come up with? Anyway, I can't remember, but I was like, Miiyami, oh, that's quite cool, because it's kind of got my name at the end, and then I just added another I, and when I searched to just sort of Google search to make sure that it wasn't like a swear word or something in another language, it's actually Japanese for elegant and beautiful, and I was like, oh, cool, because a lot of my dresses and designs are like that too, so it kind of just all matched, and I liked that it's different. Yeah, it's different. That's what I wanted, for something unique.
Yeah. So, which is cool. So, so that's our story today. But if you ever want to get into talking more about content, hit me up at Stacey Tapsell on Instagram or at votion.co.nz. I really love talking about content. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. You know, photography, videography, telling stories. I really want to dive into that a lot more. So, if you've got any questions or anything about content, I'd love to chat to you more. So, hit me up in the comments. But yeah, thanks again for watching. We're going to do these more often. This is what we call behind the curtain, and just sort of show you what goes on behind a brand and as parents as well, and just also with our family life. But yeah, so thanks again for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and we can't just wait to see you in the next one. We'll see you then. Peace.